There he is, waiting to speak to us in the sunshine of that part of the United States. It's the one and only Paul McGinley. Paul, hi to you. How are you keeping?
Good, Jim. Not too bad, thank you. Yes, enjoying the sunshine here.
You're making us all very jealous at this end, mate. Now tell me, what's caught the eye early on from these pairings?
Yeah, well, I think what's catching the eye, certainly for me, is not so much the pairings, Jim, but the weather forecast. They're forecasting maybe 50% chance of thunderstorms on late Thursday, early Friday. And if that is the case, the players that you mentioned there who play early on Thursday, they mightn't play their second round until Saturday. So that could be a really key factor. So that's what stands out more than anything. They normally put the amateur out with the defending champion, which is the case with Dustin Johnson. And yeah, look, the quality of players is a small field here this week. I think there's only 88 players in the field, and they're all real quality players. So the draws are always going to be very strong with some big names in each group.
You know, how much comes into it, Paul, that players who know each other particularly well end up playing together? For example, Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm together. Obviously, European Ryder Cup teammates. So is that a good draw for both of them?
Yeah, well, both of them have just recently become dads, so maybe they're talking about changing nappies together, Jim. But yeah, I mean, they compete against each other as well too. And if you know you're with a player who's playing well and up the top of the leaderboard, that's often a good thing. You normally see a guy in the group often would go with him when that is the case, and go the other way too. If one or two guys play badly, you can bring the third guy down. So it is a factor. It's not a massive factor, but it is a factor. And being comfortable with the players you're playing with is obviously key. And I think Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy being Ryder Cup teammates, and you know both of them right up on the top of the world rankings, will be very familiar with each other's games.
So these pairings just coming into us as you and I speak, Paul. Dustin Johnson, the defending champion, he's alongside Lee Westwood. So do Lee and the others look upon Johnson as the man to beat this week?
Well, if we were having this conversation, Jim, about a month ago, you would say yes, when his form was fabulous. He came back from winning in Saudi Arabia. He was top 3, top 4 every time he played. He'd obviously won the last major that was played in November, and he was right at the top. But, you know, players come in and out of form a little bit, and since then his form has softened. The last 3 or 4 weeks, we haven't seen the very best of Dustin Johnson. I know he's been struggling with his driver in particular. So he's not one of the players, as much as he's the world #1 and defending champion, and you wouldn't certainly dismiss him, but he's not certainly the names on the top of everybody's lips as you come here this week.
What about Bryson DeChambeau? So much is made of the way this fellow goes about his game of golf. He's one of the later starters, Paul, with Adam Scott. How do you think, I mean, it's impossible really to know, Paul, but what's your hunch about how DeChambeau will approach this week?
I think we're going to see a more measured approach than the gung-ho approach that we saw last November. I think he believed a bit of his own hype in terms of overpowering golf courses after winning the US Open. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's a very driven, very ambitious, very focused player. I think we're going to see a lot of Bryson in the next 3 or 4 years. I like how he approaches things. He comes at it from left field. And I think we're going to see a different strategy from him this week. But the one thing that's held him back around Augusta National in the past is not so much his strategy. It's been his ability to not putt very well around here. His putting has been terrible. I think his best performance has been when he was an amateur back in 2016 in terms of finishing position. So if he can get the putter going, I think we're going to see a different, more measured strategic approach from Bryson. And if that is the case, we'll see a good performance from him.
You would hope so, Paul. We just saw pictures there while you were talking to me of him in the driving range. He looks like a man possessed.
Well, what we're seeing there is that's not obviously his normal swing. What we're seeing there is what they call speed training, and it's basically swinging as fast as you can and getting your muscles used to swinging the club as fast as it can. Now, as the week goes on, he tones that. It's a bit like a boxer going into a fight. You know, they heavy training at the start of the week, and then that softens down, and they get more into the touchy-feely stuff as it comes to and the strategy as it comes to Thursday morning. So that was those pictures, I think, which you saw were from yesterday evening and from Sunday as well, when he was putting in that speed training and getting himself nice and loosened out.
That explains it, Paul. Thanks for that. And what about Jordan Spieth? You know, in the winner's circle again, he won in Texas on Sunday. He's last out on Thursday, Paul. Do you see him coming through the field and doing it? Is that a possibility?
Oh, very much a possibility. You know, we talk about the players coming in at form, and Dustin Johnson slightly lost it a bit. This guy has gone the other way. Jordan Spieth was nearly 100 in the world, Jim, back in January, and this guy has come through with some big top 5 finishes, 3 or 4 places in there. You know, he's played really well, culminating in his win last week in Texas in his home state, and he played very well to win. You know, speaking to Rich Beam last night, he was working inside the ropes for Sky. He was very impressed with how he played, and also speaking to Billy Foster a few weeks ago, who caddies for Matt Fitzpatrick, they played him in the match play, and he was saying just watch Jordan go, particularly at Augusta, because his arm play is as good as he's ever seen anybody with the arm play. So he is a factor. His form around here is brilliant. He's an ex-champion around here. Even when he was in the doldrums the last couple of years of not playing very well elsewhere, he was able to churn out decent performances around Augusta. So he is a factor, and like Dustin Johnson softened a bit in form, he's just accelerating at the right time. Nobody has won back-to-back weeks, you know, including the Masters since 2006, Phil Mickelson. So he would be the first person to do that in 15 years. But it is achievable for him. And you know, when I talk about people, I'm not so much talking about Bryson, about Dustin Johnson. They're very much talking about Jordan Spieth.
Okay, Paul. I was going to text you this question, but I may as well ask you it as we're live on air. Who do you think is going to win it?
I'd like to see Bryson win. Because I like the fact that he's a maverick. I like the fact that a lot of people don't like him. I like the fact that he doesn't care about that and he wants to come in the other way. And I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him win for that reason. I also think that he's got a drive and a focus that I haven't seen from any professional golfer since Tiger Woods, and an obsession with the game. And I think that's going to culminate in a number of majors wins as time goes on. So I would like to see him winning. If it's not going to be a European, but the guy that I think winning that we haven't talked about, that if I was to put a bet down, it's very hard to pick, as you know, but would be Justin Thomas. He's coming off a win in TPC. Strokes gained approach, which is iron play, is a real key critical factor around this golf course. The correlation between winners in the last 5 years and highly rated in that category is huge, and that's one of the strengths of Justin's game. We see him now starting to work the ball with the driver. He's got these kind of fairway finders, little low hooks and little low fades to get it in play, which is going to be key around here, and a brilliant short game. And obviously coming in on a lot of confidence. So he would, if I had to put a bet down, it's very difficult, as you say, but if I had to put one down, it would be on Justin Thomas.
Terrific. Paul, as always, great to speak to you. Enjoy it. We'll speak to you, no doubt, in the fullness of time. Thank you so much, Paul McGinley.
Thank you, Jim.